now we can go to Wednesday's board meeting, in which the idea of $2 million was once again brought up, and you made a counter suggestion. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So the DDA board this past week was looking at our fiscal year 2010 budget, and in that budget was a line item that we were calling a contingency, and it was $2 million. Right. And the idea behind putting that in there was that we the operations committee and the board, assume that the city's going to want $2 million, that will come to some mutually beneficial agreement, and so it's in the budget, but it's not necessarily promised yet. It's just kind of a placeholder, so in case we end up having to give that money, right, it's there and accounted for. And in addition to that $2 million being in the budget, there were some cuts that were being made or being proposed to various programs that had been ongoing for a couple of years at least, and I objected to the cuts being made with the $2 million being put in there as a contingency, because I felt like, well, for a couple of reasons. I felt like $2 million contingency in a budget is a lot to put in there without knowing what the future is going to hold. We haven't promised anything yet. We haven't reached an agreement, and yet now we're, as a board, faced with cutting back on programs that some board members feel are important, and that did not sit well with me.
It's also that you said at the time that you were giving the city already some $350,000.
Yeah.
And that was from?
Right. So since the mutually beneficial committee began, which was maybe about a year ago, the city has asked for, and the DDA has granted, requests to divert parking revenues from two temporary lots in the downtown. I voted against one of them, and I was absent for the second vote. I don't believe I would have supported it there either. I think it's kind of piecemeal for us to take revenue from one lot in the city and give it over to the city when we have an agreement in place that says that the DDA is there to manage the parking, and we do that comprehensively, and we take all the revenues and we make decisions about the system, and then we have those expenses. And the city, in an effort to plug holes in their budget, has looked at these two lots because they're temporary, perhaps, and has said that they would like those revenues for the general fund. Those are the lots at 415 West Washington, the old city yard, and the old Y lot. I'm not even sure what the official name is, on Fifth Avenue and William. And the yearly revenues from those two lots are projected to be about $350,000, which happen to be about the same amount as the cuts that were proposed to be made to DDA programs. The cuts are not huge programs. It's also not a huge significant amount of money. It happened to be one program in particular that I already mentioned, the energy grant program, which I think has been very successful and very well loved by the businesses. The other cuts happened to be half of the money that was targeted for the affordable housing, for our affordable housing fund at the DDA, grants that we give to the 4 business associations that they use for things like graffiti removal and event planning and other kinds of things that those associations are focused on, and some travel money that goes to conferences. The travel money I didn't feel like was that significant, but the other programs I felt like were small amounts but significant, have big impact.
Right. So your suggestion was to do $2 million minus $350,000.
So my suggestion was, we're already diverting this $350,000 that we hadn't planned on giving, that wasn't part of our parking agreement. So let's cut down the $2 million in our contingency to be 1.65, and we'll go from there. And it got a little bit of support, but not enough to be successful.
Right.